Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Natalie Frank. I am the head of community at HoneyBook and one of the co-founders of the Rising Tide Society. And I want to welcome you to this Global Tuesdays Together event. Now, for those of you who are new, Rising Tide Society is a community of small business owners and creative entrepreneurs who unite in the spirit of community over competition. We have over 400 local chapter groups led by extraordinary volunteer leaders, co-leaders, and chairs, a Facebook community with over 77,000 members that's facilitated by our rock star team of moderators, and educational resources released almost daily that include things like blog posts, webinars, templates, monthly downloadable guides, and events just like this one, completely free for our community because we believe in accessibility to education, and we are so passionate about learning together side by side. At Rising Tide and HoneyBook, we believe that when creatives rise, when small business owners have the opportunity to thrive, the entire world is changed for the better. So in mid-March, when it became abundantly clear that it would no longer be safe for many of our chapters to meet in person due to this pandemic, we decided to take our monthly meetup online. Welcome. You're here at our monthly meetup online. And it has been overwhelmingly positive month over month over month as we have continued to create this space together. Now, today we are talking about a subject that I am incredibly passionate about, primarily because when I started as a full-time wedding photographer a decade plus ago, which is embarrassing to admit now, it's like 12 years ago, I traded time for money. My job was to be primarily a service provider. And so I mastered the art of making money in a completely service-based business. I never imagined the concept of passive revenue. I never thought about scaling my income through a vehicle that made money while I slept. That was not something that I even imagined. And so as kind of my trajectory went on, and as we arrived today, about 12 years in, I've had this opportunity to examine how so many different businesses run and this abundance of opportunities that are available to all of us, including our service providers. This opportunity is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So I am so excited to be joined by two extraordinary guests in today's webinar as we dive into the conversation around passive income, online courses, and visual content creation online. First up, I would like to welcome Ms. Emily Weiss to the conversation. Emily is the head of partner marketing for Thinkific, the leading platform to create, market, and sell online courses. She specializes in building and nurturing strong partnerships rooted in shared values, creative campaigns, and mutual wins. Emily has helped hundreds of course creators along their journey, and she believes that by sharing your knowledge through online education, you can create a genuine impact for your audience while building a thriving business that you're proud of. Emily, welcome to today's webinar.
Thanks so much. I'm super excited to be here with this community. I've been following along Rising Tide forever, so I'm super stoked to be here.
We are so excited and honored to have you. And also joining us today, the one, the only, Zaylee Barkley. Zaylee is a visual content creation coach and the creator of the Start, Shoot, Grow Video Academy. She specializes in helping entrepreneurs effectively stand out and make a genuine impact in the digital space. Through captivating images and original video content, she teaches others how to effortlessly create the visual appearance they've always dreamed of in order to unlock multiple revenue streams and attract paid opportunities and connect on a deeper level with their audience. Zaylee, thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
oh my gosh. Well, I have to say, when we shared in our leadership groups that this, and in our community at large too, that this webinar was happening, the number of people that responded with something along the lines of, oh, Zaylee is dope. I love her. She's amazing. Or Thinkific is the best. Like, that platform has changed my life. It was astounding to us. So much so that Kate and I were like, we should do these more often. Like, talking about this subject is so important to this community, and so much value, I have no doubt, is going to be shared today. So thank you both so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Now, before we dive into the questions that we have sourced from the community prior to this event, I also want to invite everyone watching. This is meant to be collaborative. This is not so much us talking to you as it is all of us having a conversation together. And we care so deeply about making sure that you leave today's webinar with information that will change the trajectory of how you move for the rest of 2020. I know it has been an immensely hard year for so many in this community, and I have to believe that this session could be a powerful catalyst to change somebody out there in their business and how they operate, to bring more money in and to give them the freedom that they deserve in their business. So ask your questions, use that chat. Please, please, please don't hold back. First question we already have rolling in here from Lori is, Zaylee, what is your company name again, so that she can check you out and hopefully follow you on Instagram?
Oh, sure. You can find me at Zaylee Barclay everywhere, but my baby is Start, Shoot, Grow. So it's the Video Academy. You can find it at startshootgrow.com, and it is hosted on Thinkific.
Awesome. And look at Kate Masters. She is amazing. She already dropped in all the links to make sure everyone can find you both. Awesome. Well, let's not waste time. Let's dive right into our first question and topic. So let's start with course creation. Education has been dominating the online space lately, especially for small business owners, especially with coronavirus. And so we want to kind of start here. Why should creatives who are interested in sharing their knowledge consider creating a course or courses as a new income stream? Whoever wants to take it, I'd love to hear from both of you on this question.
Yeah, I think Zaylee is an incredible person to speak to this because she's done it and is living it. So maybe Zaylee, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Well, it's so crazy because when the world shut down, there was so much confusion about, what's next. And in my heart of hearts, I knew that I was on that path for a while, right? So for the past 5 years, I've been creating online courses, selling online courses, and helping others create online course experiences as well. And the craziest thing was there was such a boom in the industry, and I'm sure Emily can speak to that later, but the craziest part is being a creator online. I feel like a few creators just had an influx of inquiries, like, teach us what you're doing, and let me know in the chat if you were one of those people. Like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? I need to learn this. I need to understand video conferencing, or, how to use this specific platform. So many skills that we had been using. And now we're able to, instead of dealing with that full-on influx and trying to hire a team and all of those things, because everyone is doing that as well, creating a model of one to many, so that you're able to diversify your income with just more ease, because you're able to serve more people with one product. And yeah, I hope I answered that, but yes.
No, that's a perfect answer. And I would also add as well, I think there is sort of this myth that when we say passive revenue, that it means there's no work required. And I would love to know, what does it look like to actually create that course? What is the kind of work that goes into that process? If anyone caught Zaylee's reel, which by the way is the first reel we've ever put out, and was like a last minute DM at like midnight, like, hey, if you happen to create a reel, and she's like, you know what, I got this, I can do this. She outlines it at a high level, but I'd love to hear in terms of like creating that course from Zaylee, what goes into that? What is that kind of behind the scenes process? And then Emily as well, like, what do you see working maybe at a macro level with course creators across the board?
Yeah, I feel like really, first of all, understanding what is the problem that you're solving, right? Like, what are you specifically guiding people through? One, and two, understanding like who are you talking to specifically as well, right? So, or who are you selling to? Who's your audience? What are their struggles? So all of that comes into research and really validating that idea for the course. So you might have an idea, and I like to speak to this because I made all of these mistakes. When I first created my first online course, I created what I thought people needed, and nobody signed up. So after staying away from the internet for 5 days, I recouped and I realized that I needed to ask and figure out what people wanted instead of giving them. Example for video, people think they want all the technical aspects first, but what they really want is, or what they really need from asking questions is, well, I don't know if I'm brave enough to get on camera. I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. So that's where I realized, well, for my course, online course business, confidence or having confidence on camera was the first layer.
My breath is so bad. I don't know why.
I'm sorry. I think was someone asking something?
No, I think somebody wasn't muted. Kate, can we make sure she's muted?
Yep, she's muted. So just a quick reminder, please make sure you don't unselect mute. Otherwise, we'll all hear you. Sorry about that.
Sorry, keep going, Saley.
Okay. So really just finding out what people want from you. And so I had to go back and do research and figure out, okay, so this is the root of what people are dealing with. So really validating that idea and making sure that it's the right thing to move forward with, and letting people know, that this is what I have coming up. Or even if you let them know that you have a beta group that you would like to test this idea with, that's a really great way to get results first as well before you launch it to the masses. And just making sure you do have that audience. So there's a lot of pre-work that goes into it. And then we get into like the building process of it, which I encourage you not to overthink too much, because I love when people come to me and they've already tested the idea, and then we could expand and, make fireworks with it. But also just testing that idea, making sure that, people do want it. Even if you test it on a smaller scale, I think when it comes to online course creation, people think that they have to come out the gate swinging with their first course, and you don't, right? You can always evolve that thing. You can change the pricing. So many things that would stop us. I encourage you not to expand and testing that idea. Actually making sure, I think when not the things that we should let stop us. Evolve that thing. You can change the pricing. Actually, not the things that we should let stop us. Okay, sorry. I think I was hearing myself. But yes, so the things that we let stop us in the beginning are not the things that we should let stop us. Like the pricing, or, what we should put in there, or just really mapping out the bare bones of what it would be like to deliver this to someone, testing that idea. And then we have the launch phase, right? Of actually sharing it, getting up and sharing it and saying, hey, I have something for you to buy. A lot of people create the whole thing and then they say no one bought it, but you didn't ask anyone to buy it, or you didn't let anyone know that you had an online course. So there are so many phases within it where you can eventually get to the place where, there is an amazing passive income stream happening, but it's also important to solidify those phases of things. And I could go deeper, but I'll let Emily take over.
Saley, we're super aligned. That you just took the words out of my mouth. I think the advice I always give to new course creators is validate there is market demand for your course before you spend the time and resources. Because you're totally right, Natalie. It doesn't happen overnight. Creating an online course does take a little bit of work. So give yourself permission to invest that time by being certain that there is demand and that product will result in revenue for you and for your business. I think one of my favorite strategies that I think you touched on, Saley, is pre-selling your course. So before you even create any content, you can start to pre-sell your course, because people will vote with their credit cards, right? So if you put up a pre-sale page and you have, even if it's only 10 people pay you money, that's great. That's a huge win, because that means that there's more people like that out there who want to learn that topic from you. And before you get to that stage of pre-sale, again, what Saley said, talk to your audience. If you have an audience, even if it's not a huge, tens of thousands of people in your audience, whatever you have now, there is value in there, because those people are looking at you, they trust you, they know you, they like you, and they're going to be kind of like your day ones to help you grow your online course. So talk to them. If you have your pens and pencils, I have 2 magic questions I always tell you to ask your audience. The first is, what is your biggest challenge with XYZ? So if you're going to create a course all about, getting on camera, you can say, what is your biggest challenge with getting on camera and doing live video, or whatever it is, and start to hear what those real problems are that your audience is solving, so that, like Saley said, you can choose one of those or a few of those to really hone in on and solve for your audience. And then the other one is just straight up telling your audience you're creating an online course. So I would say, I'm planning on creating a course on live video content. What are you most curious about? Or what is the biggest question you have about creating online video? Or any way you want to phrase it, but just put these questions out there. Now you have so many tools. Before you had to email and maybe use Typeform, and now you can throw up an Instagram poll and it takes you 2 seconds and you can engage with your audience. So there's tons of ways to get really, really helpful information from your audience. And if you don't have an audience yet, like Zaylee said, spend some time to build one, but also go find out where your ideal audience is hanging out. So maybe they're in forums, maybe they're in communities, and start to see kind of what they're talking about and what the discussions already are. And if you're seeing kind of like recurring questions that you know you have the answer to, that's usually a really good indicator that that could be your potential course topic.
Oh, these are like mic drop moments one after another. Truly, this is so, so valuable. And, you know, one thing too that I've seen is as someone goes through the trajectory of creating their course, launching their course, they just keep putting out so much value that their platform also grows. The growth happens as a result of knowing your audience, serving your audience, and showing up consistently. And so it very much is a process where you build it and you nurture it prior, you know what they need, which is what we're hearing. And then, you know, continue serving, continue showing up, which is what Zaylee does so well. And so many course creative on Thinkific do as well. So let's touch on something, Zaylee, that you mentioned and that truthfully has been a struggle that I face and I know so many other people face when getting onto video. And that is the fact that a lot of business owners, a lot of creatives, they shy away from online course creation and honestly, so many other realms of marketing and content creation because they're so afraid to get on camera or they have insecurities that are holding them back. You know, how do you encourage people to gain confidence working in the digital space if they're used to selling and educating face to face, or maybe if they're just being held up by those negative narratives and those insecurities?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I think that the first thing that we have to really remember is what is your purpose, right? So what are you here for? What were you called to do? What were you put here to deliver? Or what transformation were you put here to give to someone else? I think that when we take a step back and we are able to hone into that, we realize that it's not about you, girlfriend or guy friend. You know, it's about that person that is probably lost because you have not put yourself out there. So that's the first thing. And also just realizing your person's pain. So whether you get into on a Facebook group, like Emily said, and you dig in to see what people are struggling with, or you're in your competitors' YouTube comments where there's a wealth of information that people are struggling with and they will give you ideas. Knowing those pains and putting them somewhere, you know, like I like mapping out those pains so that I can go back to them and realize like, hey, this is what's important. We got to remember that we are problem solvers. We just get paid to solve them, right? So when you show up on camera, you're able to do so many things. First of all, you're able to build your business, right? Or even your online course. You're able to incorporate video in there. Video gets people so into you, right? You know, think about your favorite celebrity or TV star or whoever it is. You're sitting down with them at a specific time, 8 p.m. on Thursday nights, you're tuning in for years. Sometimes we have seasons of shows. And we feel like we know those people, the characters that they're playing, and we get so engaged in them. That could be you. Create a time, tell a few people, and show up at that time consistently over and over again. If you don't do anything today, I want you to do that. You're also able to market your business. And I love talking about education-based content marketing, which is teaching again, you know, so outside of that course, you're teaching so much that when it's time to ask for that money, people are like, just take all the cards, you know, so it just makes things easier when it comes to selling your online course. And that's the other part, selling webinars, workshops, things that get your people into actually making the purchase. I feel like our conversions with videos are what we replace or how we replace that in-person interaction. So we're no longer, and I used to say this before COVID, now guys, we cannot interact person to person as much as we used to. So this message is even more powerful now than before. Before, a nice salesman could have knocked on the door and said, hey, this is what I have to offer. Now we have, well, QVC and HSN, they were light years ahead. You see Amazon is doing that now. They have live video selling because they want to show you the product. They want to show you what it can do. And that's what you should be doing with your product as well. So.
Amazing. I want to get into the nitty gritty though of this back end of actually selling the product? And this might be a really good question for you, Emily. Holly asks, I would love to know about the back end setup and what are the best ways to take payments when it comes to online courses. So what does that look like at Thinkific? How do you actually generate the revenue from these videos that you create?
Well, yeah, I can speak to that. Hi, Holly. Thanks for the question. I like your wall. So it's pretty easy to take payments. If we want to talk specifically about Thinkific, so in Thinkific, you can build your online course, so you can actually deliver your training content. You can also build landing pages and sales pages that will help you process payment. And then to actually take payment, we have a checkout and you process your payment through your Stripe or your PayPal account. So you'll actually get paid directly and keep 100% of your revenue, which is my favorite part, because as a creator and you're putting in this work and you want to make sure that you have full control and that you're actually getting the money that you've earned. So super easy. You just integrate with Stripe or PayPal.
Amazing. All right, Holly, I hope that helps. I hope that gets that question answered, because I know the world wants a course from you. All right, look, we have so many people that are asking, Zaylee, give us the truth here behind the amazing video light combo that you have going on. The number of people that said, please tell me how she's doing this. Her lighting combination and camera is always the best. Do you have any advice for people like me who are still using my laptop without any external cameras? Like, where can we begin? Where can we improve this quality? Because it changes everything.
It does. I think the first part of quality is the you. Right? So whenever you show up on camera, you are responsible for people staying on. So within the first 1-2 minutes, you get on there and you deliver. And that first starts with you really knowing what you're going to say when you get on, right? So I always have an idea of what I'm going to talk about before I actually go live. I think that's one thing. I like saying, figure out the thing that you can first say that's going to bring people in, and map out 3 points after that, and make sure you have your, what the action you want them to take after. And always tell a good story. Like I just shared about me hiding from the internet for 5 days after my first online course launch. So you guys know something about me now, we're connected. As far as my video setup, I would show you what it looks like, but my apartment is a mess because I'm moving. So I'm actually just using window light. So you can use artificial lighting, which is like your soft boxes or your ring light. You can use those. Like if you look at my social, I always have different lighting because I love testing different setups, especially for my students. I love showing them different ways to do things. So I never have the same setup for too long. But yes, so I'm sitting in front of a window. My camera's directly in front of me. The window is over there. And so I'm using a Canon camera, and I have all of this on my YouTube channel. So I have the full setup on my YouTube channel. You can go there and you can see it. And I'm streaming through Ecamm, right? Which is allowing me to have this high quality video through Zoom. So it's really simple. It's really easy. And I always make sure that my background is clean. So just making sure that there's not too much going on. There's no, fangle dangles. There's just a plant and 2 pictures, right? So that you're paying attention to me, the subject of, the video. So, and my microphone, I have a full guide on my website that has all of the equipment that I use. My microphone is a simple lavalier. I think I paid $30 for it, but it's one of the best ones. And it allows me to be able to move around, because I love the hands. It's horrible. But yeah, so it allows me to move around and really just focus on connecting with you.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. One question that I've seen a lot, and I have personal opinions on it, but this is not my time to share my personal opinions on it. I want to hear from both of you. We hear this all the time. Should I be doing this if everyone else is doing it? Or is there enough room for me? Or hasn't it been done already? Or she's already doing it and doing great. So then how can I do it? I would love just to hear from both of you through differing perspectives. Like, what do you say to that when you hear people say, oh, but I can't, not me. There's not room for me.
Daly, do you want me to go or do you want to answer? Because I know you've talked about this. Cool. So my first thing I always think about is there's a stat floating around out there that like e-learning is on track to be a $325 billion industry by 2025. And so if you don't think that you can have a little piece of that, I think that that's a little bit of an awakening, that there's more than enough room for everybody to have a successful online course business given the industry size. That's just like industry size. When we want to think about you as a creator, it's having a competitor is a good thing. If there's somebody else doing this and they're already talking about kind of something similar to what you talk about, that's validating demand. Earlier, I talked about always before you create anything, validate that there's a demand for it. So if there's somebody out there and they have a business and it's thriving, that's a really good thing, because chances are you know something a little bit different, or you can talk about that problem for maybe a really specific audience or a different audience than that person. Or maybe there's people that resonate more with you than that creator. And so there's always going to be a place for you. I think that it's really important that you share your genius. Like Zaylee said, what is your purpose? And if that's your purpose and you're not sharing it with the world because somebody else has the same purpose, that doesn't even make sense. Like you owe it to yourself to give it a shot and bring it to life, because somebody might resonate more with you and you might be able to change their life and have a profound impact on your audience. So I always say, give it a shot, put yourself out there, and I think you'll be amazed at the people that find you if you're living your purpose.
Amazing.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. That was so good. And I would say that there are different ways to lose 15 pounds. There's keto, there is going vegan, there is cutting like bodybuilders do. There's so many ways to do things differently, and we all have different lived experiences. So if you have an experience that is different, I think that's what really adds to the meat and potatoes of what you do. Your delivery is going to be different. So yes, you may have the same destination, right? But the way that you serve it is going to be different. And I think that's where I like to say in the whole recipe of it all, because I love food. Can't you tell? I think you have a sauce that is different from somebody else's. There is something about you that is absolutely special and that you could also incorporate into what you do, even if it's something that is a part of or an aspect of your personal life, right? Because brand stories, guys, it's so funny. Yesterday I was on a mastermind call and someone could not remember the name of an author. And they said, oh my gosh, the guy who cured himself with his brain, he got into an accident. And I was like, Joe Dispenza. That's the power of a brand story, because she remembered his brand story before she remembered him. So including your brand story into what you do as a course creator, even in the elements of the course itself. People are different. We might have someone who made $100,000 and one person made it with an MLM and the other person made it with selling online courses or with a coaching business. So there's different ways. What is your personal experience? And I think when you niche down into that, you realize that there are other people that have had your personal experience or are on your specific journey towards that same destination. So, yeah.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. And the questions, they are pouring in right now. So let's dive into this one specifically. I love a lot of sad I missed the dog. Leo, your dog. Oh. Okay, let's dive into this question right here. Is there a rule of thumb in terms of length of a course and price? How do we know how much to charge? And not to add one more question to this, but is there something, so like, is there a world where too much is too much? Like, I think some of us in this room are Enneagram 3s, I suspect. And therefore, I suspect they want to create the world's longest course, the world's best course. When they look at this, they can't even get started because the sort of like success marker is so high for what they want to accomplish. So could you just tell us here, what is the rule of thumb in terms of length? Like maybe help us out, and pricing. Where do we start? How much do we charge? Yeah. Enneagram 3s unite. I know, Bree. Yeah. Look at all these 3s coming out. Yes. Me too.
Someone said, I feel attacked. I love it.
Personally attacked. I know. I'm sorry, Emily.
You go, Em.
Sure. I don't know that there's a rule of thumb, but I can share some of my thoughts around this and hopefully simplify it a little bit. I think the key to choosing your course length is thinking about how you can create a transformation for your student in as few steps as possible. So going back to what Zaylee said earlier, the most important thing you need to know when you're starting your course is what problem you're solving. And then you need to think about, given my students' current state, so where they're at right now and where they want to be, what are the steps, like the non-negotiable steps that they need to take to get there? And so, I'll give you an example. So say, for example, you are teaching a course for a recent university graduate, and you want to help them get their first job. Now, there is about 1,000,001 things you could tell them to do in between that transition, right? You could tell them how to go shop and pick out the perfect interview outfit. You could teach them how to pick the right font to get your resume noticed by recruiters. Is that the most important thing you need to teach them? Maybe not. Maybe the most important things you need to teach them are how to build a resume, how to apply for a job, how to nail your interview, and how to notify your references. So 4 things, like the most important 4 things they need to do. Then write that down. So I am a super visual person. So if you have a notebook, literally I draw it. So I'm like, here's where they are. Here's where they want to be. Here's the 5 steps in between that they need to get there. Then take each of those steps and do the same thing on a smaller scale. So if it's a resume, we want to go from no resume to a great resume. What are the 3 to 5 steps in between to get them there? They need to know how to set a clear objective. They need to know how to properly format their job experience, and they need to know how to map their job experiences to the job posting that they're applying for. That's it, 3 things. And so when you do it that simple, you come away with a course outline on 1 page, and it's your modules or your lessons broken into your modules. And that's a really easy way to simplify, because as a creative, you're going to be like, wow, there's 500 things I want to share you, and there's all these information I want you to know because I know so much and I want you to have it all. But the reality is your students don't want more information. There is so much information out there with YouTube and Instagram and blogs, and there's a ton of information. They don't want more information. What they want is a transformation. So they want the fastest way to get to their desired outcome. And so if you can do that, if that's in 3 lessons and they get to exactly where they want to be, that's fantastic. That is impactful, straight to the point. They get in, they get what they want, and they get out. It takes you a little bit longer. Maybe it's a more complex lesson, then that's okay too. But always challenge yourself. Can I simplify this? Is this critical to achieve that outcome? So is it critical to actually helping my student achieve the transformation they're desiring? So for a new grad, is this really going to be the thing that helps them get a new job? No? Save it for another course. Or maybe that becomes a piece of free content in your social, or maybe it becomes a mini course that you use as a lead magnet. So there's lots of different things you can do, but keep it simple and always remember, done is going to be better than perfect. So put it out there, try it out, see how it resonates. If your students are all skipping 1 lesson, it's got to go, it's not working, that's fine, but keep it simple. And if your course outline should fit on 1 page, and that's kind of I guess if you want to call it a rule of thumb, that's it.
I think also the things that Emily said are no's. I love that she said you should either keep it for another course or it could be part of your content marketing. For me, if I came upon a YouTube video that said, 5 fonts not to use on your resume, and then I saw at the end of the video or beginning, hey, there's something, there's this course here that actually tells you how to get hired. That's how I think about marketing and video content or a blog post as it pertains to getting people into that online course or interested, because that's a good way to vet your audience.
One thing I want to highlight is Zaylee just said, how to get hired. And something we keep hearing over and over again that I hope everyone is just soaking in is it's all about solving the problem. And what you just did was you communicated the transformation from the very outset of how, and you're such a genius when it comes to this. And you probably are like, yeah, that's what I would title it. Or how I would, work it in. But the truth is, I think sometimes we can get so caught up in how much information we want to share that we lose sight of that 1 sentence transformation that our students are going to have at the end of our content, at the end of our course, at the end of what we're offering. And you just did it so quickly and dropped it like that. And it's so important for anyone in this who's listening, when you start to think about, okay, the pains you want to solve, never lose sight of what we're hearing over and over again. And Emily said it beautifully, transformation, not more information. What is it that they need? What are they getting at the end of this? Yes, 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 and yes. Let's go back to pricing though, because this is a big question that I know a lot of people have, and it's very intimidating to price your first course. You don't even know where to begin. What would your recommendations be for setting a price to that first course? Are there things that we should be keeping in mind?
Zaylee, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I think I have a different view of pricing. I believe that pricing should be based on your business goals. And this is something that I have to talk people out of all the time. Because they're creating a new online course, they want to sell it for $5 because the fear is that nobody's going to sign up. Well, not $5, I'm exaggerating, but but they want to sell it for something that they've seen online. So let's say they've seen a bigger influencer or course creator selling a course for $27. They want to do the same thing. And what ends up happening is that person is making $70,000 based on that $27 price point, but you with a smaller audience, you're not going to do the same thing, right? So I like finding a number that works for you and then breaking down the amount of students that would be, desirable amount, or even breaking it down by conversions of the least. Let's say it's 1% of the people you have access to on your list, or 5 or 10% of the people, because that's, around usual conversions, breaking it down that way. So let's say you do convert 1%, at least you're still walking away with your goal amount, or, but yeah, that's kind of like how I like to approach pricing, just to get people away from the idea that because I'm new and I've never created an online course before, I need to sell it for what I see other people selling it for, because it fits their business goals. Their 1% might be 3,000 signups, right? Whereas your 1% might be a bit different. So I hope that helps a bit.
Yes, no, that's fantastic. Another question that came in was around balancing video and graphics or slides on a course. How do you determine how much of your face they should see versus how much of it should be your slides? Any advice there? Anything that you've seen that works really well?
Yeah, I like to think about the reason for the content. Example, if I have to show you how to build a sales page in Thinkific, I would want to walk you through that. Right. And so we have different types of video. We have screen shares, we have talking head videos, which is what we have. So it's also determining, you want to think about your student and how they're going to ingest it. Example, if I sit down in a talking head video and tell you, so when you get to the banner, what you need to do is, you're going to be like, wait, what? How? So you want to think about your student. And I always like, even if, like, let's say you get into your modules, you do an intro and an overview. And I like doing that face to face, because it's kind of like, I like to translate my online course experience as if I were in person. Right. So when you start something new, you want to get in there, you want to explain to that person, you want to encourage them, you want to motivate them, and you want to make them comfortable for, what they're about to go through. And then at the end, you can pop in again with your head and say, hey, how did you, with your head, girl, and you can pop in again with a talking head video and ask, how did you, I hope that was good for you. I hope you learned a lot. And of course, you want to assess your students as well to make sure that they are moving through that content. But I like to think about it in a way of how is the student receiving that content? What is the best way for them to receive it? So I hope that's helpful.
That is helpful. To kind of circle back to pricing, not to jump and then jump back, but we did just get a great question in here from Sarah. And Emily, I'd love to know for you, because looking at how all of these different course creators do it across the platform, Sarah asks, what are your thoughts on a lower price point for the first few courses in exchange for feedback and reviews for participants? Is that something that people often do? Did they do it for free in terms of a beta program? What do you see working across the board?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this. This is, I always talk about two things. I talk about pre-selling all the time. I'm like, if you can put up a page and pre-sell your course, do it. And before that, even if you can do a beta launch, that is the best case scenario, because then you can get people in your course to test it. You can start getting social proof and testimonials, and you can really iterate and work with that group to create a product that you can start to sell to a wider audience. So I definitely recommend beta launching if you have an audience. The key, though, to having a successful beta launch is charge. So it's still your program. You still put a lot of work in there. Don't just give it away for free. Still charge for that product. Yes, you can charge a discounted rate, but you can also look at it as from a different perspective of charging your full rate, because you'll be more hands-on because you're still developing the program. So if you're launching a course and maybe you're doing like weekly coaching calls to help them through the program and get feedback, that's super valuable. So don't undervalue yourself and your time and the effort that you've put into building that program. And then the other thing that's really important when you're doing a beta launch is to have really clear expectations of what you expect from those first students in exchange for early access to this program. So whether that's social proof and testimonials, whether that's regular check-in and feedback around the content, or a debrief call, or whatever it is that's going to help you, make sure to be clear about that so that they understand the reason why they're getting early access is in exchange for that feedback. Because that social proof can be one of the most valuable things for you as a course creator. Like when we look at course sites and the ones that do really well, the one thing that they all have is testimonials and social proof.
So powerful. And so often, just like we mentioned a couple of times in here, in different places, asking for what you want, asking for what you're going to need in advance, and even asking for people to buy your course once it's out there, like having the courage to ask for what you want, a common theme amidst so much of this. Before we jump into the next question, I want to remind everyone listening that you can post your questions in the chat. And also, if you hear something, there have been so many mic drop moments, a key takeaway, something that resonates with you, go ahead and post it on Instagram stories, share it, tag us, tag both Zaylee and Emily so that we can be reposting and sharing and cheering you on throughout this webinar. I normally mention that in the beginning, but I got so excited and kind of fangirled a little over these two. So forgot, but I didn't want to miss my chance to say, please share and love on our amazing guests as they're dropping all of these knowledge bombs one after another. Okay. Let's keep with the tactical questions because I love it. And we're getting into the meat and it is so good. One of the questions that we got from someone in the community was around, what are the real numbers on the cost to create and host a course? What are the expenses that we should anticipate going into this?
Yeah, I think that can differ. You know, it depends on what you want. And like I said before, I am a believer in, like Emily said, when you're building your beta, you can really do it with the skeleton of the course platform that you're using. So you don't have to do all of I know a lot of times online we see all the fancy upsells and downsells. You can do all of that within Thinkific, which is what I love because it's a really functional platform. So it can look like a website. Like if you go to my website and you go to my Thinkific site, you don't really know that you're on a completely different site, which is what I love. I remember, I'm a stickler for having a website, but I remember when I first launched on Thinkific, I was doing my website over and I was actually making money on the Thinkific site only without any, so it made me change my idea of, well, you gotta have a website. You do, but you're able to do business on the site itself. So I would say just having the site, you can use your phone to create your content. You can use Canva for free. Like you can really, figure this thing out without doing too much. And as you move along, then you can improve the experience of. So let's say you've launched your course and you've made $3,000 from it. You can put those profits back into the business and get a videographer and hire someone to finesse your student experience or, build out a webinar for you or, so you can definitely do the footwork for, I would say, under $100.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I can add to that just to I always have a really recommended, this is what you need. You could do it with Thinkific. So like Zaylee said, you can have your landing pages, your course, your checkout, all that in Thinkific. The only other tool I recommend you have, and there's a ton of them out there for free, is an email service provider. So whatever one you prefer, like Thinkific specifically integrates with all of them. So whichever one you like, whether it's MailChimp or ConvertKit or whatever, some way for you to communicate. Those are kind of the two main tech tools that you need. And they always have free plans. Yeah. So even with Thinkific, you can always get started and sell your first course on our free plan. So when you're first getting started and validating your idea, that's great because you don't have to worry about financial barriers. And then as far as tech equipment, like Zaylee mentioned, like you can start with your phone. I love telling the story of Deanne Love. So she's one of our like top 7-figure course creators over at Thinkific. And she started filming herself in the park with her phone propped up in a tree, filming herself doing her hula hoop tutorials. And that was her round one. And now she's making 7 figures and has this like thriving business, but she was scrappy at the beginning. And I think like that's a good reminder that, again, like to iterate, done is always better than perfect. So put something out there, even if you're like, man, this video, like me right now, looking at Zaylee, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get it together. But you know what? Put it out there anyways and give it a try, and don't let that hold you back. And then to iterate what Zaylee said, grab a mic, whether it's a lab mic or like I have this guy, Stillball. I think these are like $60 on Amazon. So, and my one piece of advice, and Zaylee, I'm interested to hear your thoughts here, but I always say audio is the most important thing. Video quality, people are a bit more forgiving if your video is an amateur hour, but if your audio is really bad, then people can't listen because it's just like, it's not consumable. So,
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So basically you can get started for free with your iPhone, but there's little small ways that you can level up to create a really great outcome.
I love it. And I love Leo here saying the good old tree tripod trick. I love it. I feel like we've all become masters at leaning our phones against something to get the right video. Awesome. Okay. Let me see. We've got a couple more good questions in here. I don't want to miss anything. Oh, let's do this. We had a question come in from Stephanie, and I think this is really important. When we talk about brand and just what offerings we have, she's in the coaching space, and she's kind of asking how much of her business should be the course idea of one-to-many versus the one-to-one coaching. How do you strive to create sort of that one-to-one feel in your content as well? Like making them feel like they're a part of something exclusive, that they're a part of that community, that it's not completely scaled perhaps, to kind of keep that human touch as well in a group course or module approach. So kind of, I feel like I'm getting 2 questions from you, Stephanie, here. One is like, is there room for both the one-on-one and the one-to-many? And then also, how do you integrate some of what works so great on the one-to-one and what we love as human beings and community with others into that course?
I got so many answers in my head from that question. That is a packed question. I think that if I'm understanding right, let's talk about one-to-many and one-to-one. That can also be based on pricing, so if my one-to-one time is going to be more than my one-to-many time. But for me, what has really worked is getting people into one-to-many, and then the people that cannot work by themselves will start saying, hey, do you have, a way for me to work with you one-to-one? And it kind of happens naturally, right? So you always have that next level that people can use to work with you. I think I also got in there kind of when you're creating your online course, I always record in an intimate setting. It's you and I, right? Because you're thinking that it's one person using the platform. Hopefully it's not the family huddled around learning, right? But so you speak as if it's one person. You're having an intimate conversation with them. This is your time together, right? So even if it's a group coaching program, everyone wants to feel special anyway, and they've all bought their own seat into the program. You can supplement that with something like what we're doing here, right? We're talking together. So you can supplement that experience with a group coaching where you do like a Zoom call, you have a Facebook group that you go live in. There's different ways to deliver that. And Thinkific has live Zoom integration. I mean, hello. It's just, I'm so excited about it. But yes, so you're also able to deliver that experience. But I am an advocate for keeping that personal touch between you and that person. I hope I answered it all.
I think just to add on to that too, like I think another really cool way that you can create a sense of intimacy is with your students, with each other. It doesn't always have to be up to you because you're only one person, but now you can introduce them to a whole community of people with shared goals, shared values, and that can really have a ton of value. So it doesn't always have to be one-on-one with you, maybe you facilitate breakouts or opportunities for community collaboration, and that could be a really great way to keep your student feeling valued.
I love it. You're going back to like Seth Godin 101 tribe, like connect them to a leader, an idea, and one another, like the trifecta community triangle. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. Let's see here. Let's do one last question here from our leader, Trung, and then I have a final key takeaway question that I always love to ask. Trung asks, my question is, what are some good milestones to recognize that it is time to start considering the delegation of production? So a lot of us are going to start being scrappy. We're going to have the iPhone. We're going to, be in an early stage. But when do you start to recognize, okay, it's time for me to level up? Like, what are some of the cues there?
You want to go for it, Em?
Sure. I think like only you can make that decision.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on, again, like Zaylee said, are you earning enough revenue to justify that investment? And if you're not yet, then the video quality is not the reason you're not earning enough revenue. There's other things that you can focus on and put your energy into. I would say once you have an established audience, your launches are thriving, you have additional cash, then you can start to look at ways to level up, whether it's outsourcing your video production or things like that. But I really think and Zaylee, you're a perfect example. Like the power of what you can do at home without having to outsource now is incredible with the way tech is. And so I think there's so many other areas you can invest in as a course creator.
Yeah, I do believe that as well. Yeah, that was really good, Em. I feel like when you are able to, let's say, for example, you have your students saying, hey, this video never plays when I press play, things like that. Then you'll start understanding what needs to be improved and how it needs to be improved. Also, when you do improve, you're able to also raise the price of your course, right? Because you're pouring into this and now they have an even better experience. So you're able to raise prices in that way. But yeah, that is really a personal thing because everyone's business goals are different. Everyone's income is different. So it really depends on when you are well and ready. And if you're getting a lot of complaints like, hey, we can't hear you, then you need a new microphone or you probably need to get everything outsourced. Yes. But to piggyback on what Emily said, I also feel like pouring into ads and things like that might be a better way or a better use of your money so that you're able to get, or, even time, guys, like time is huge too. It's not only monetary investments, but time where, you are scheduling time to go live and talk to your audience, and you are investing in probably outsourcing someone to do your content marketing so that, or even a copywriter. There are so many things that you can do before you do that inside Revamp.
I love it. And it sounds like there are a lot of great resources too, both that you have free, Zaylee, and paid courses that you offer to really help people almost self-level up. Like that's kind of what I'm hearing. Like you say, get a new microphone. And I'm going, of course, yes, you could do that. And I'm like, all right, I got to bookmark the YouTube channel and probably sign up for your course, as well to kind of learn these things. But I want to encourage everyone too, if you're thinking you want to step into this space, you've got two extraordinary leaders right here who are geniuses in this field. And so as we close out today's session, with so much gratitude on behalf of this entire community, myself, HoneyBook, and Rising Tide, I would love to hear from you both. What is your final key takeaway? If attendees or those watching the replay can only take one piece of advice away from today's session, what would you want them to walk away with?
Go, Emily.
Okay. I gotta stick with the tried and true. This is my advice with everything. Please, please, please do not go spend time, money, tons of resources creating a course that you haven't validated people will buy. It's so important. I would just hate that feeling of like you've put in all of this work and you don't see the result. So if you only learn one thing today, please validate market demand before building your course. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to go hire a market research firm. Just talk to your audience, ask those two magic questions, go do some research and creeping in the Facebook groups and see what people are talking about, and prove that there are people out there who are going to buy your course for yourself so that you can justify the time and the resources to create it, and so that you're serving your audience in an impactful way. that's my I will hang my hat on that. And then one last thing I can share with everybody, I just dropped a link in the chat. If you don't already have your Thinkific course, so you want to go poke around and check it out, I did drop a link so that you can have a trial of one of our plans, so you can go check it out. But keep in mind, you can always also start with a free account. So this link is a trial of one of our paid plans, but you can always start for free.
Awesome.
So don't create barriers for yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think my advice would be, a lot of people hear online courses and we hear about the value of the industry, the billions of dollars. And I want you to just remember that you are solving a problem first and the money will come, right? The other thing is that you're in this for the long game, right? So when you start doing this, I want you to just don't take too long to start taking action. And like Emily said, validating your idea, hurry up and fail, right? So hurry up and get that part over with so that you can get to the good parts. Yes. And the last one is there's only one you, and only you can create your online course experience for your students.
I have nothing else to say other than thank you, because that is the perfect note to end on. And I also think I'm going to get hurry up and fail tattooed on me somewhere. I love that. I love it. Emily, Zaylee, thank you so much. I know Kate has dropped some links into the chat here where people can learn more about you, where they can get connected. We also have that great link if anyone is interested in getting set up on Thinkific and actually taking some steps today to take this idea and start turning it into an additional revenue stream in your business. I want to thank you both so much for joining us. And as a reminder, the replay will be available for everyone. And we are just so grateful for both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be here and chat about some of our favorite things to chat about. Could be here all day.
Oh my gosh. I was gonna say we'll have to do another one. I feel like this conversation, we could do like a 10-hour conversation on this. So good. So much knowledge. Thank you both so much. And thank you for everyone who tuned in. All right, everybody.